The client says we need a homepage. The client says we need this onboarding sequence. You jump in, you wordsmith, you write that homepage, write that email sequence, get paid, and move on. That's the way a lot of copywriters actually work, especially when they're early in their career and they don't feel like they can speak up. Um, Now, as you progress, what you start to realize is the foundation of good copy is not your ability to come up with interesting or quirky ways of saying things. It's rooted in fundamental research. So, who are the competitors? What makes up this category? Your ideal prospect. Who are they? Who else are they considering at the time? Why are they looking for the solution right now? What was that triggering event? Which criteria are they considering, and how do they prioritize that criteria? These are all questions that you actually need answers to if you want to write compelling copy that moves the needle. And so this is what gets into what we were talking about earlier, where yeah, we can talk a little bit about copywriting, but there's not that much to talk about there. It's going to be more about this research. And the way that I tend to do this research, I roll it out in a few phases. So first phase, and this is how I explain it to clients as well. First phase is reviewing, internal documents, testimonials, market research, sales notes, sales calls, anything that doesn't require me to actually speak to somebody on the team or a customer themselves. And the reason that I do this is that it prepares me for the second phase, which is interviewing staff, especially customer facing staff. And the way I explain this is by reviewing these internal documents, by the time I speak to your staff, I'm not wasting their time with stupid questions. I have a pretty good idea of what your product does, who your competitors are, who your ideal customer is, and I can start to get into some of the nitty gritty. So when I'm interviewing staff, I'm looking at people in sales, customer support, success, and then to a lesser extent product, and then marketing a little bit, although I take everything they say with a grain of salt just because they are so close to the product and the problem. And the reason they're bringing me in most oftentimes is they want an outside perspective, somebody who's got a little bit of distance. So I don't just take what marketing tells me and run with it like I might have when I first got started. And what I'm really trying to get at there is I'm trying to understand uh, their product category, the product itself, and their ideal customer as they understand it today from their perspective, and that gives me a baseline. But again, I'm not just taking what they tell me at face value as the absolute truth. It's just a place to start and a place to prepare me for phase three, which is actually starting to interact with customers at this point. So just like reviewing those internal resources prepared me so that I didn't look like an idiot when I spoke to people on their team, speaking to their team prepares me so that I don't look like an idiot when I speak to their customers.
So there's an order.
Exactly. So everyone's pretty happy about this order because nobody wants to have an outside marketer come in and speak to their customers and mess up that relationship. So I go into those customer interviews, or if I'm sending out like a jobs to be done style survey, I go into that with a pretty solid understanding of the product category and customer, at least as far as my client understands it. And that's phase three then is that customer interaction. So surveys, interviews. And this is where I start to find one, discrepancies between what I was told and what's actually true,
Mm-hmm.
which is obviously valuable. That's one of the main reasons people hire me is to find those discrepancies and do something with them. And then the other benefit that comes from this is from the client side, it's I'm actually finding the most painful problems that we can actually solve today versus just doing what they told me to do. So, they might come to me saying, "Hey, Josh, we need a homepage." And I'll say, "You might need a homepage, but first I need to go through this research, audit, and discovery phase. And if it turns out you need a homepage and that's the most important thing, great. There's a really good chance I'm going to find some other things that you need and that are probably even more important than your homepage." Um, and so the benefit of the client, obviously, like I said, I'm solving the most important problems and I'm finding problems they didn't even know they had, but were costing them. And then the benefit to somebody like me or to a copywriter who might be listening is that all of a sudden a homepage project, which wouldn't have served the client very well and would have paid, X dollars to me, has
Mm-hmm.
turned into a research, audit, and discovery project, which costs money. And I've identified a whole bunch of other deliverables as well that we should work on together, and I'm able to justify it by pointing back to my research. So I've just expanded the project scope for myself, but also, and this is important, expanded the amount of value that my client is going to get from working with me.